So let's begin. So hello, everyone. My name is Mike Tarallo. I'm a Principal Technical Marketing Manager with Qlik, and I'd like to welcome you to the Do More with Qlik webinar series, where today I am bringing you back to set analysis. And for those that are new, this is going to be a good inspiration and learning experience for you, as well as me showing you some of the ways that we've improved the approach to working with this useful and versatile capability. Okay, so today you might ask, set analysis again, but there are a few reasons. First, very popular topic, as you can see from the views on the video. Two, there have been some significant advancements and improvements, including some AI enhancements, along with this AI craze that's going on, that make it easier. And it's worth taking a look at. And then, of course, I didn't want to forget about the new generation of Qlik users, that might be somewhat familiar, but maybe not have used it before. So I thought this would be a good topic to show in the series. Before we continue with all that great stuff, gotta go through some of the normal housekeeping stuff. So on the last Do More, I presented our AI enhanced features and capabilities that are powered by Insight Advisor and Qlik Cloud Analytics. I also showed you how the business logic layer works, so you can see how you can customize Insight Advisor to improve business context and return more relevant results, and even customize the interaction with the user. This is available now in the Do More archive library in case you missed it. And you'll have references and links to all that stuff in your follow-up emails. Okay, so and if you missed that one or any other previous Do More, we are right now on episode 47. You can always check them out in the Do More Qlik library, which includes 40 plus count and counting previous sessions. This is available as a link sent to you via email, and the most recent sessions are also available in YouTube in the channel playlist, and you'll get links in the follow-up emails as I have mentioned. Okay, now, usually I'm a little bit prepared for the next Do More. All I can give you at this time is a date. And so just all I can tell you is stay tuned to the registration page, which again, you'll have available. So when we have that set, there'll be announcements in social media, on YouTube, etc. But right now, the next Do More with Qlik is set for December 13th, where the topic is to be determined. Okay, and then of course, shout out to my friends in education. Okay, they have made a variety of courses available in our continuous classroom at learning.qlik.com. Okay. And you can search the catalog for the term set analysis, and you can get introduction to set expressions, advanced set expressions. These two courses basically are going to really dive in deeper with tutorials and certifications, as well as assessments. That's going to help make you understand the topic even better. Okay, so now we're jumping into the presentation. We're going to talk about the basics of set analysis. So I anticipate this session to really be kind of like a working session. If you want to interrupt me, you can. We'll just have to be conscious to the other members in the group. But I'm just going to start out with some of the basics, and then we're going to jump into the improvements. Okay, so let's first talk about the basics within set analysis, things that you should know. Okay, one of the things that you should know is there is already a lot of information out there on set analysis from Qlik, from our partners, from our customers, from our community members on YouTube, not only from myself, but other members. So I'm not going to run down through everything that set analysis can do. I'm not going to get into all of the structure. We'll talk a little bit about it just to make you familiar, okay? And just focus on some of the basic approaches to get you started. Some of the things you should know is that set analysis was originally a written syntax, and it is used in chart expressions, but over time has been implemented into our expression editor, master item menus, and as of late can now be generated using aggregations and filters with our expression generator. And I'm going to show all that stuff later. Understand that it's only used with measures, and it's only used in a chart object's measure expression. Okay, you're using it with just an aggregation, right? So when you do sum, count, for example, min, max, you're setting up the aggregation of a numerical component in your data. That's when you're going to use set analysis. You're not using it in the load script of the data, if you are familiar with the load script of the data, which gives you additional advanced capabilities of working and transforming with data. Think of it as a way of putting a condition on an aggregation. You're limiting the result of those values to a set of data. that is different from the current selection. And since it's an expression, it can be completely dynamic with the use of functions and variables. That's where really set analysis shines, right? I have 2 videos out there, the basics, introduction to set analysis, and then I have another video called part 2, cool things you can do. Okay, and you can see a lot of that stuff, on your own if you want. But working with variables and functions makes it completely dynamic. And then here I just, I have different examples. I'm going to go through a couple different examples of utilizing set analysis. Okay, things you should know that, to set the foundation. Continued. The broader concept of set analysis is based on set operations from set theory in mathematics, right? So hence the term set analysis. So you might see documentation in terms that use unions, intersections, differences, elements, and operators, etc. Okay, and these are screenshots I took from the cheat sheet that Miguel Garcia created. But understand, you might hear me use simple terms like equals and not equals, and it's just easier to understand when I'm showing the results of the data. But just go in with the working knowledge that you're working with sets of data in which you can perform many more advanced operations on that data. And I'm going to provide some of those examples today. Okay, so why use it? In its most simplistic form, the way people usually use it or people begin to use it, it's for reducing a result to a specific set of data. So think about hard coding a filter in a chart object, right? You know that Qlik already has this awesome engine that compresses the data and it works the way the mind works and it produces answers on the fly from search and selection, right? And you can interactively work with those chart expressions by selecting and filtering data. But sometimes you might just want to create a simple KPI or a metric that just shows the number of orders, for example, that have the status of open. So you could just select the order status filter for open, and then you see the order count changed. But if you just wanted to show that KPI up front without selecting a filter, you could use set analysis to do that. Okay, that's just an oversimplification of that. It can also be used from comparative analysis, ignoring selections. Like if you're performing analysis, you don't want the values to change, for example, you just want it to stick to the set of data that you defined it to. Looking for associations in data, right? The way our selection process works with green, white, and gray, seeing the excluded, the unexcluded, all possible values. You can do all of that with set analysis. And for those of you who asked me last time about creating multiple calendars, I just created a video on how to work with multiple dates and multiple calendars. And did you know, in order to perform that tip and trick, you actually use a little bit of set analysis for that, okay? And that's something, we could share at another date, and that's available on our YouTube channel as well right now. So a number of different things you can do, and there's much more that we can cover, but just wanted to just give you some of that working knowledge of why we're using it. This in its simplest form is a set analysis expression. Now, for the newly Qlik user, if they're looking at this expression, they might be like, what is this? This is confusing me. I will tell you, after a while, you get used to it and it becomes second nature, just like anything that takes time to learn. But there is a structure that sets up operators, identifiers, elements, utilizing single ticks, double quotes, etc. It does get easy to use, but the other part, as I mentioned, of this presentation is we also have tools that are going to generate this for you, and then you can manipulate it later for your needs. Okay, so this is just an example of a set analysis expression where you have your aggregation, in this case sum, you have your measure, in this case sales, and then you have your set expression in the middle. Okay, and they're encapsulated by curly braces, angle brackets, and then elements and so forth. And we could break that down as the set expression structure. Okay, and you can see I color-coded this to make it a little bit easier, right? Your identifier represents a selection or a specific set of records, and there's ways, and you're going to see of how we can do that. Are we looking at the current selection? You could also, for example, if you created a bookmark, you could actually reference that bookmark in your set analysis expression, making your set of data easier to define. You could also represent an alternate state. A simple set expression basically consists of a single identifier, such as a $sign. There's different symbols that mean things. which means, for example, all records in current selection. Once you start working with it, it becomes more familiar. Operators, which are used to create unions, differences, intersections between different set identifiers. And then modifiers, okay, which is used to change the selection. Okay, so in this example here, we're just basically looking for data for the year 2003, right? Give me all the sales of data where actually year is not equal to 2003. I'm sorry, 2023 in this case here. And that's an example of the exclusion operator. Now here's some other examples that I'm just showing you here. We're saying equals, or in this case, where it includes 2023. This is where sum of sales includes 2023 and the category of baby wear. This is actually utilizing a function, which is using a dynamic function. So in other words, whatever the year is for today's date, or in this case, last year, that's -1, it's going to automatically show the sum of sales for last year. So every time, you know, a new year comes around, it'll automatically update. It's not hard coded. It's just an example of a set expression using a function. This is an example of using a calculation, using all possible values. I have an example of that to show you. So you might want to say, you know, which individual purchased, or which country, for example, purchased baby wear, but not menswear, for example. And it'll give you that example, or what was the values, etc. Explicit searches and dynamic searches. In this case here, we're looking for, you know, all category names where it equals men. So like menswear, for example, is one of them, or men's sporting goods or something like that. It will give you all of those categories versus this one, which is actually looking for men asterisk. Okay, so again, today's session is going through how we're making it easier with the defined tools, but these are the structures that you're going to see, and I implore you to make yourself familiar with as you start working with set analysis, because I use it every day in all of the apps and demonstrations, and it's so easy really to understand and use when compared to, you'll say, other tools that I've used that you might be familiar with. Okay, so what's improved, right? It's all around simplification and reuse, right? There is a new syntax structure to make things even easier, and our beloved former employee, Henrik Constrom, had created a blog called New Set Analysis Syntax. Okay, that is going to be available in the resource list that's out there. So it provides a way of using additional positions for the set expression, so you no longer have to put that expression in this form. You could actually do something like this. So you can put the expression in the front. The reason for that is that this will take precedence for every measure that you have in the expression. Whereas in the past, you would have to put that measure, that expression, in each of the expressions. Now, those who are familiar with that might know what I'm talking about, but when you do something like sum minus sales, sum minus costs, and you wanted to do this, you would actually have to put this expression in each of the expressions like this. Okay, so you don't have to do that anymore if you're going to be using this type of structure for your analysis. You can just put it right in front. So positioning of that. Support for master measures as well, right? So you can do this against master measures in your master items list. Now, no longer just using real field names. You could actually perform this. A question came up regarding performance on the position. No, it does not affect any of the performance. The inclusion of scoping, so you can control how the evaluation is occurring by utilizing parentheses, and then also using context. So whether you want to use the current selection or an outer set expression. So what you can do is, for example, have one expression use whatever current selections are used from the interface, and then another expression use whatever's defined inside the set expression. Yes, and the question came up, can it be combined before in an expression? Yes, it can, along with the use of scoping. Okay, and the expression editor also, and I'm sorry, so we're going down to the new expression generator, the ability to create what's called master calendar measures, which I'm going to show you, and then our expression editor, which includes point and click tools for bookmarks, alternate states, and selections preview. Okay, so how it's made easier with the expression editor. Many people might overlook this, but there's some tools that are available when you're creating expressions for your measures. And the set expressions, and I'm going to demonstrate this, the set expressions menu on the side, you can automatically utilize selections that you're working with and insert them immediately into your measure that you're defining, and then make the changes and modify them afterwards if you need to. And that could work for current selections, bookmarks, as well as alternate states. Okay, and that's an example of an alternate state. So if you're familiar with alternate states, which is good for comparative analysis, you can create, for example, two measures in one chart that have different states for different selections that you're working at, such as show me sum of sales for Germany and Brazil. And you can select Germany from select list 1 and Brazil from select list 2, and it'll automatically dynamically show those values. And I have examples of that as well. So you could have two selection lists that represents two different states, and those two measures represent two different measures for the selected states in the same chart. And that is done by utilizing, set analysis. How is it made easier with AI? So there's also an expression generator inside the expression editor. So right now it is limited to aggregations and filters, right? So I can say sum of sales for baby wear where year is 2023, and it'll generate a set expression as you see below that I can, and it actually just insert directly into my measure. Or I can say count customers that have sales greater than 5,000 this month, and it will automatically generate the expressions that I could use. One note right now, the months or the time frames that are being used are hard-coded. That can be changed manually by utilizing, certain date and calendar functions, which is not too difficult. I've made mention to this to product management and to include an improvement to, make time periods a little bit more dynamic, and they have accepted, my idea, and that is something hopefully we can see in the future. But these are things that you can do with the expression generator. Now, another overlooked capability that has been in the product is also the ability to create time period measures directly in master items for your measures by simply selecting the measure you're interested in and right-clicking on it and saying create calendar measures. And it'll create year-to-date, current year, last year, monthly, quarterly, weekly, depending on the granularity of your calendar. It'll create these measures and aggregation. It'll create these calendar measures for your aggregations and measures that you choose immediately with a simple point and click. So it's a great way to do comparative time period analysis within master items. And then, of course, write me a set analysis to summarize sales for the year 2023, excluding the product arcade sticks, ChatGPT. You can do this, and it does work, and it is pretty exciting and pretty cool. I would say it doesn't always get it right, but for the majority of knowledge that people have and through the education and training, if you get stuck, open up ChatGPT, ask it to write a Qlik set analysis expression with your criteria, and it will generate the expression for you that you can cut and paste. So really, really cool implementation of that, from the large language model that's been scraped and assembled over the course of the years when OpenAI had released ChatGPT. So you could really do this if you want and see how it works. And you can see there's an example that works. Okay. So now we're just going to move on to some of the demonstration pieces of this, and I'm just going to bring my screen into view. As I mentioned, if any of you have any questions, ask them along. I appreciate it. I'll do my best to answer. Let me just reconnect my session here. Let's see if there's any questions. Yes, thank you, John. I see that we had a nice comment here about ChatGPT validating my point as well. Okay, and there's some other how-to questions in here I'm going to try to address as well. Okay, so I always like to start, just showing some of the data is already loaded, the app is already created. I'm not going to show you guys that. That's easy stuff, right? So let's go to charts, and I'm just going to grab a KPI object. I always like starting with the KPI object. Click Add Measure, go into the expression editor, right? Sum sales. You start with sum of sales. And I like to do this for comparison purposes as well. Control C, Control V. go into my expression editor for sum of sales. And as I mentioned, I'm an old school Qlik guy, so I'm starting to write my syntax like this, right? So in this case, I'm selecting the field, and my auto calendar year is from this list. And I click insert. And now you can see it reduced my answer set down to sales for 2023. Okay, that's at the simplest form. But if you don't want to do that, okay, you could do something like this. So there's sum of sales. I'm going to grab my fields, and I'm going to go to my metrics and my dates and my dimensions. I'm going to grab year, hold down my shift key, drop it onto the canvas. This gives me a selection box. Go into my app, and I'm going to select 2023. Click edit, go back to my chart. Go back into my function, put my cursor right in front of sum of sales, and you'll notice that there's a little box here called set expressions. And here you'll see use current selections. And then I can click insert. And then you'll see what it did is it put the set expression directly in sum of sales of my measure. I click apply, and now we got our same answer. So without having to write any of that syntax, I just inserted my current selections. Now, let's imagine we have another field. And I see a question that came up about what I went through and if that was an intentional improvement, that it's still parsed. I'll address that later. It's probably because it recognized the year as a function name. That's why instead of the field. Well, let's go back into the selection, and I'm going to choose baby wear. And I'm going to create a bookmark. And as you guys know, a bookmark saves a selection state. So we're just going to call this 2023 and baby, and click create. Okay, so now that this bookmark is created, that means anytime I go back into an app, I can launch my bookmark and get the same, oh, wrong bookmark. Sorry about that, guys. 23 and baby. It brings me directly to the sheet, and it brings me to that selection. So let's say I wanted to change my set expression and just reference the bookmark. So I want to show you two things that it does. Now, use bookmark. You'll see it shows 23 and baby. When I click insert, it actually inserts the fields that are selected, okay? The values for the fields that are selected. But if you wanted to make this more dynamic, you could actually just reference the bookmark name, in this case here. So you could reference, what is it? 23 and baby like that, I believe. Let me see if that's the way that works. Right, so now you can see sales for 2023 are now using that bookmark label. So if you have a bookmark that has a number of different selections and you don't want to crowd your expression with a bunch of values, you can just reference the label. And that goes the same for alternate states as well. Okay, so when building these expressions, this is a great way to kick it off, to build it for you. So you can then go into some of those, more advanced, and I'm going to show you some of the advanced ones towards the end of the presentation. Okay, but this is a great way to kick off your set analysis expressions by just utilizing the tools that we give you here for bookmarks or current selections or even alternate states. Now, taking this one step further, if we wanted to use the expression generator, so I just have a cut and paste here, right? So if I go into expression generator, now what this basically is, if you're familiar with Insight Advisor uses natural language query or natural language questions or search to produce the visualizations automatically. Well, if you ever looked at those visualizations, you'll see there's an expression in those measures. What we've done is taken that capability and brought it to the expression editor. So those expressions can then be used for whatever it is that you're looking to define within your measures. So by typing in sum of sales for baby wear, where year equals 2023, it's generated the expression preview, and it's got my aggregation. It's utilizing, in this case, again, this works with business logic and everything that I talked about in the past, which is, another session in itself, but basically puts in the expression for you as well. So at this point, now we get our answer for that particular expression without having to type in or create that set expression as well. Okay, so if you wanted to go a little bit more advanced with additional operators for numerics, for example, and be a little bit more specific, count customers that have sales greater than 5,000 this month. There's my expression. I can click insert, and it's going to count the customers, in this case 0 for 5,000. Let me see what expression I'm looking at here. Oh, because I said this month, and we're in November. Of course, when I ran this in October, so we can say last month. Insert, apply, and we should get 2, and there it is. So that is another way that we're making this process easier. In this case, with a little bit of our AI approach working with our analytics engine. Okay, let me see here. I always like to keep things honest. I'm going to go through. So we talked about the improved syntax structure, new expression generator, master calendar measures. Okay, we talked about the bookmarks as well. So if you wanted to create, for example, some time period comparative analysis, did you know you go to master items? Now I have these here already because I was working on, obviously I work through my demo as I'm presenting. So I'm just going to delete these for you. Now, for those of you who don't know, you have your fields, which are loaded from your data load, right? From the fields that are in your data source. Then you have master items, which are reusable, governed, derived fields, calculations, expressions that you define from the real fields. Okay, and then these can be populated and given to users who don't have full control of the app, so they can create their own apps based off an approved set of data. Well, did you know that if you're in your main source of your fields and you select a measure, in this case, I'm just going to choose sales, and you right-click on this and say create calendar measures, it's going to allow you to select a date field. In this case, I only have order date. It allows you to choose your measure field if you wanted to change it. I like to right-click on it and say just create it. It automatically selects it for you. The aggregation, in this case, is sum, but you could edit it to use others. In this case, these are the main ones: sum, count, average, min, and max. And then the time range that has been set up. Now, in this case, this is defaulting to year, monthly, quarterly, and weekly. So here we could have sum of sales year to date, sum of sales year to date current year, sum of sales year to date last year. Okay, and if I click this switch, you can see it's actually set analysis under the covers. Okay, which can be modified if you want to, but you don't have to. So then we just click save to master items, and it creates this list of measures, right? So when I create a master item, I can say total sales. And in my expression, I can say sum of sales. Click apply. And that creates a expression I can call the label total sales, and number formatting is money. Oh, that's label expression, I'm sorry. That's if I wanted to make the expression dynamic. And then I click create. So it just creates this reusable object. So if I drag that to the canvas, it recognizes it as a measure, and it's going to create a KPI with the number of the sales. Now, if I grab the one that was created by the master measures, you can see year to date current year, and year to date last year. Okay, what used to take a couple of questions to support or a couple of questions to a member in the community now is immediately done with simple point and click. And what I meant by questions is those who didn't know how to create that dashboard that has all of those default values. And I have an example of that here I can show you. By the way, did you guys know that if you go into the little menu and you see these little boxes, it allows you to open up a new tab? A lot of people miss that, believe it or not. Because I always like working with multiple tabs because I hate waiting. But if I just open up one of my example applications that I built for demonstration purposes, I use set analysis a lot. Okay, and this is an example of a sales and order analysis dashboard. Okay, and you can see I'm not performing any selections, right? Total number of orders, units sold, a specific type of unit sold, how many units are left to fulfill, how many orders total are unfulfilled, how many orders have shipped, how many orders of an unparticular type are still open, okay, how many consist of upgrades. These are all using some form of set analysis under the covers to give me that information front and center at a glance. Okay, another good reason for utilizing, set analysis. Then of course, when you start performing selections, you can choose to have selections ignored or not. Okay, so for example here, notice that when I click canceled or not canceled, or canceled as a different filter, some values update, some values don't, right? That's because I'm using an identifier, for example, in one of my set analysis expressions or in the KPI. For example, $ means include expressions. And then, for example, there's a value for 1. Here's just an example of that set expression here that I've used. Right? It's just a little bit more involved. It's very simplistic to what I showed you already. The sales and order analysis application question came in. This is something that I've continually worked on a set of data that I'm trying to make available to our team. It's just one of those things I haven't done just yet. Because this is actually a real-time app. It utilizes Qlik data integration to pull data directly from a development instance of Shopify and then updates it in real time when things change using CDC. That's another core competency that we have. So what I like about this is that this refreshes, it's real time. This is more true to life type of application, but we can save that for another presentation. Okay, so that was sales and calendar measures from the master items. The last thing I did want to show you is also alternate states and how that is used with set analysis. Okay, we mentioned that we can perform comparative analysis. In this case, we have state 1 and state 2. So I want to compare Brazil with Germany. And you can see that now I'm looking at Germany and Brazil both for sales. And these are dynamic. So now I'm looking at Canada and Belgium. So this is called comparative analysis with alternate states. So the way this is done is you define 2 filters and you define their alternate states. And you can see this is called country alt 1 and this is country alt 2. These are nothing more than just filter panels. There's videos and stuff on this as well. But it's basically just dragging and dropping filters and setting up an alternate state name and then assigning those states to different measures. And you can see if I go to, and somebody asked about utilizing get field selections and so forth, different functions could be used. But remember how I said you define the set analysis expression before? So this is representing the alternate state name. So sum of sales, country alt 1. Sum of sales, country alt 2. And it's that simple. So you just reference the alternate state and it now will allow you to perform comparative analysis with your selections in one chart. Okay, this is all stuff that used to have to be coded, written. It does not now, okay? But the core from where it comes from is known as set analysis, and understanding that structure and syntax is going to then let you evolve into performing more advanced examples. Okay, so I've created a number of examples here. To save time, I'm just going to open them up to show you how they work. Okay, but the one I want to start out with is this example here, and I'm just going to edit this expression chart object just to show you I have nothing crazy other than sales and quantity. Okay, so I'm saying sum of sales where order ID, all possible orders that are greater than a certain dynamic variable, and where sum of sales is greater than a variable, and I want to count the order ID. So that's what P is all possible values. I'm not going to be able, I don't have time to go through the exact arguments to fill. Again, you guys are going to have all samples to work with this, but I'm using variables in this set expression. Okay, so if you wanted just to see what it looked like, like this, you can use spaces. I use spaces to make it a little bit easier to recognize, but there's your set expression. Okay, and what this set expression does with the functions and the variables, again, this is the art of the possible. I can now just click this little slider here and say, all right, I'm looking for all orders where sales are greater than 25,000 and order quantity is greater than, let's just say, 163. So there's that one order. Greater than 77. All right, the maximum order I think in here was 45,000 or something like that. And I know you guys are going to want to do stuff like this because it makes the users have more interactive capability and get answers they need immediately by just simply changing these sliders and variables. Okay, so this is utilizing variables and those functions, right? This one here, all customers that are associated with baby wear. Okay, again, P, possible values here. So you can see I'm using the expression sum of sales where customer is equal to P, open parentheses, 1 meaning ignore selections, category name, baby wear. So what this is showing me is all customers that are associated with baby wear. In other words, the customers that have also purchased baby wear. Okay, so that would be similar to doing something like, let me clear the selection for country. So if I select baby wear, right, these are all customers. Look at the table here, right? This is a simple filter. These are all customers who have selected baby wear. Now, if I go and say select alternative, these are all customers who do not have, who have not selected, in this case, baby wear as well. Okay, but if you wanted to see the other customers that are in your list that are associated with baby wear, for example, and you want to look at, without selecting the filters, you can code that directly in the expression. So when you utilize set analysis, you're also kind of like performing these, think of like selecting the filters from the list boxes, but without actually having to select the filters from the list boxes. Okay, this is just a simple example, like I showed you earlier. This one actually shows a KPI, which usually shows measures, but now we actually have a text value utilizing the concat statement, and this is actually showing me the #1 ranked country. All right, so if we open that expression, we're just basically saying rank agger. Now, again, agger is another function, if you're familiar with it, right? So we have like 3 functions here, rank, agger, and sum, okay? And then by utilizing the concat function, it allows us to actually display that country name, right? So if you just wanted a simple KPI just to display the #1 top country right now, you can utilize set analysis to do that. Okay, I think we covered this set expression. Okay, and then here's another example. Instead of possible values, we talk about excluded values. So instead of using the P function, you could also use the E function here. Now, I know I'm not explaining this verbatim. And again, it is not to teach you directly how this works. It's to show you what is available and to intrigue you that these capabilities are possible and then for you to learn how to get started, right? That's the whole point of Do More with Qlik, showing you that you could do more with Qlik, not exactly showing you how to do it directly. That's what our education is for and so forth. But I did mention that you're going to have a list of resources, and then this set analysis cheat sheet created by Miguel Garcia from AfterSync Consulting is just printed out, put it on your board if you want to, and you could be a set analysis guru in no time. Right here, element functions, P to use all possible values in a field, E to use all excluded values in a field, pro tips, resources, all this other good stuff is going to be right here at your tips. I'm getting a couple of questions in. We're almost done with the presentation, so let me just make sure, and I'm going to address the questions here. I think that's all I wanted to show you. So the other two things, the resources you're going to get, I don't know if everybody saw this. I'm going to say, putting in my email here, send me your email here, and I will send those resource lists to you directly so you don't have to wait for the follow-up. Did want to show you that I do go into more detail in the Introduction to Set Analysis video, part 1. Please, I could talk for hours if we started from start to finish. And then Set Analysis part 2, cool stuff you can do. And I include all the examples, as well as the video, and then I even attach the samples. I think the samples are attached to this. If not, they're attached to the first one. Okay, so you have these immediately. And again, look, if worst case, you know, I don't get in touch with you, you type in Qlik set analysis introduction or beginner, and it'll be the first hit that comes up. Okay. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed everything. Have a great rest of your week and have a wonderful start to the holiday season. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And hopefully I'll have all of you back on my next session on December 13th. Alrighty, all, take care.